Good day, dear students. The topic of our lecture today is basic properties of the text, lecture number 8. Today we will speak about fundamental features of the text, about 7 criteria of textuality, about semantic, communicative, and structural integrity of the text, and about integrity and coherence as the main properties of the text. What properties make text a text? Different scientists answer this question differently. In their approach to establishing the main features of the text, German authors proceed from the consideration of several modern textual concepts. They draw attention to the fact that in most modern concepts, texts are defined as speech formations consisting of any number sentences or other text units. Thus, the text are chains of sentences interconnected with the help of special means. It is this quantitative feature that underlies most modern concepts of the text. However, German scholars quite rightly doubt the uniqueness of this text parameter. Based only on the quantitative criterion, it is very difficult to draw the line between the sentence and the text. The text, according to the authors of the concise encyclopedia, is a complex, coherent, relatively complete sequence of sentences, organized according to grammatical, communicative, pragmatic, and text compositional rules. The above definition of the text is supplemented by one more feature. Any text emanating from the speaker and directed to the listener is always correlated with a certain segment of reality, real or imaginary, taking place in the present, past, or future. Each language has special means of correlating a speech work with reality. They are called referential means. The number of parameters or features can be different for different authors. One of the most famous foreign theories dedicated to the description of the general properties of a text is the concept of Robert de Bogrand and Wolfgang Dressler on the 7 so-called criteria of textuality. Textuality in this case is understood as the totality of those properties, parameters that are inherent in the text. These properties are recognized: cohesion, coherence, intentionality, perceptibility, informativeness, situationality, intertextuality. According to Bogrand and Dressler, text is a communicative event that satisfies 7 criteria of textuality. According to their theory, only if all 7 criteria are met, a certain sequence of sentences can be considered a text. If at least one of the criteria is not met, then the text cannot be recognized as communicative and should be considered as non-text. The 7 principles of textuality demonstrate how richly every text is connected to your knowledge of world and society, even a telephone directory. Since the appearance of the Introduction to Text Linguistics by Bogrand and Wolfgang Dressler, which use this principle as its framework, we need to emphasize that they designate the major modus of connectedness. Cohesion concerns the ways in which the components of the surface text are connected within a sequence. Grammatical forms and conventions are adhered to by surface components, and therefore cohesion rests upon grammatical dependencies. The grammatical dependencies in surface text are major signals for sorting out meanings and uses. Cohesion encompasses all of the functions that can be used to signal relation among surface elements. Coherence. This criterion covers content, relationship in the text. The producer of the text and the recipient is trying to establish the relationship between the individual components, even in the case when the relationship is not marked by conventional means. At the same time, the process of not only perception but also the production of the text is cognitively conditioned. The text is based on a common combination of features that make up the so-called world of text. The world of the text, in turn, is determined by the semantic continuity of the text. It is of the meaning that is, according to the author, the basis of the coherence of the text. So the coherence of the text is based on the semantic continuity of the world of the text. The meaning of the text lies in the actualized textual interconnections. It constitutes the actual meaning of the linguistic utterance. Without cohesion and coherence, communication would be slowed down and could break down altogether. Cohesion and coherence are text-centered notions, designating operations directed at the text materials. Intentionality. This feature is understood as the intention of the text producer to build a coherent and meaningful text. This text serves a specific purpose, for example, to communicate knowledge to someone or to achieve a specific goal. Acceptability. This term, like intentionality, comes from the theory of speech acts. In a narrow sense, Bogrand and Dressler understand the recipient's expectation to receive a coherent and meaningful text that is necessary or meaningful for him. These expectations of the recipient are based on familiarity with the types of text, social and cultural context, selectivity of goals. In this case, the active role of the recipient, since he himself controls the process of perceiving the material and, if necessary, removes the arising interference. Acceptability concerns the text receiver's attitude that the text should consider useful or relevant details or information worth accepting. Text type, the desirability of goals in the political and socio-cultural setting, as well as cohesion and coherence, are important in influencing the acceptability of a text. Informativity. Under this term, Bogrand and Dressler understand the degree of novelty or surprise for the recipient of the presented text elements. No matter how expected or predictable content may be, a text will always be informative, at least to a certain degree, due to unforeseen variability. The processing of highly informative text demands greater cognitive ability, but at the same time is more interesting. The level of informativity should not exceed a point such that the text becomes too complicated and communication is endangered. Conversely, the level of informativity should also not be so low that it results in boredom and the rejection of the text. Situationality. This term, Bogrand and Dressel, denotes the factors that make the text relevant to the actual or reconstructed communicative situation. The situation in which a text is exchanged influences the comprehension of the text. The text always bears the imprint of the situation that is used in this situation. Features of the situation dictate the norms of communicative behavior of partners. For example, when greeting, reminders, when giving an order, etc. The speaker must correctly assess a particular situation in order to then adequately present it in the text. Intertextuality concerns the factors which make the utilization of one text dependent upon knowledge of one or more previously encountered text. If a text receiver doesn't have prior knowledge of a relevant text, Communication may break down because the understanding of the current text is obscure. Texts such as parodies, rebuttals, forms, and classes in school, the text producer has to refer to prior text, while the text receivers have to have knowledge of the prior text for communication to be efficient or even occur. According to Moskalskaya, the units of linguistics and the objects of its study are superphrasal unity, microtext, and a whole speech work, macrotext. All observations of Moskalskaya concerning the basic properties of the text to superphrasal unity, that is, microtext. At the same time, the integrity of the text, the organic cohesion of its parts, is characteristic of both the superphrasal unity and the whole speech work. Superphrasal unity is a specially organized closed chain of sentences, which is a single statement. The close relationship of the constituent parts of the text, coherence, manifests itself simultaneously in the form of semantic, communicative, and structural integrity, which are related to each other as content, function, and form. The semantic integrity of the text lies in the unity of its theme. Moskalskaya understands the semantic core of the text, its condensed and generalized content under the theme of a whole text or microtext. Superphrasal unity, microtext, is monothematic. The unification of all its constituent sentences around one topic is a manifestation of its semantic integrity. The transition from one theme to another is a borderline signal showing the end of one superphrasal unit and the beginning of another. The communicative integrity of the text is manifested in the fact that each subsequent sentence in a superphrasal unity in the communicative plan relies on the previous one, moving the statement from the given known to the new unknown. Structural integrity lies in the presence in the text of numerous external signals of connections between sentences. They point out that the superphrasal unity is also a structural whole. Pronouns and pronominal adverbs, the choice of the article form, the use of tenses, and much more serves as signal of the structural connection between sentences. They are actively involved in the establishment of left-sided and right-sided connections between sentences that make up a superphrasal unit. Thus, they perform a text-forming function. The properties of the text presented above, expressed in semantic, communicative, structural integrity, in their totality also serve as criteria for dividing the text into superphrasal unity. These include a change in the microtheme, disruption of the continuity of the theme-rematic chain, disruption of the continuity of external interphrasal connections. In modern linguistics of the text, attention is primarily focused on two main properties that make up the essence of the text, on the integrity and coherence. These properties imply a connection, the unification of text elements into one whole, affecting different aspects of the organization of a speech work. Integrity presupposes inner completeness, semantic unity of the text. Connectivity consists in linking the elements of the text with each other, and not only the elements that follow in the text directly one after the other, but also at some distance from each other. Integrity and coherence are the systemic properties of speech works. They lie at the very basis of the separation of text linguistics into an independent scientific discipline. In foreign linguistic literature, coherence and integrity are also recognized as the main features of the text. Most often, scientists consider them separately from each other, as for example in the concept of Bogrand and Dressler, but sometimes they are combined under one name, for example, text coherence. This term refers to the specific relationship of the constituents of the text observed at various levels. So, Brinker says about text coherence, distinguishes between sentences at the grammatical level, between prepositions at the semantic level, and between speech actions at the pragmatic level. Ton van Dijk prefers to talk about two types of connectivity that characterize different levels of discourse. But in principle, here we are also talking about coherence and integrity, the central concepts of modern linguistic analysis of the text. Answer the question, please. What properties make text a text? What features distinguish text from randomly matching sentences? What is the underlying function of most modern text concepts? Thank you for your attention.